RCC students. How's everybody doing? Just wanted to take a couple minutes just to say thank you for sticking with me on the course. I know a lot of you stood with me. You didn't really drop it, which I appreciate. I know it's been very difficult. Not getting one-on-one, personal attention, but we tried our best to do it with the videos and keep you guys engaged. Today's Tuesday. There's only a couple days left of class, so I just wanted to make a video. Today we are indoors at New York Country Club, where I'm a teaching golf professional at. This is our indoor facility. This is my club repair area. So this is where I do all the re-gripping and reshafting and loft and lie. Plus we clean all the clubs with this machine here. So we put the clubs in here, we clean all the grooves, make them all nice for the membership. But it's pretty cold out there for May. There's about a 35-mile-an-hour wind blowing, so this was about the only place we were going to be able to do a video today. So what I really wanted to do is I just wanted to go over some of the things that we talked about in the class. Just give you a little overview of everything that we covered over the last 9 weeks. I think we started pretty much with the grip. When we were able to have class, we talked about the 3 different types of grips. We talked about the interlock grip, where we interlock our pinky and our pointer. We talked about the overlap, where we overlap our fingers, our pointer and our index finger. We talked about the 10-finger grip, where we put all 10 fingers on the golf club at one time. We also discussed ball position. I like to promote a constant ball position. I feel the ball should be played 3 inches inside your left heel if you're a right-handed player with every club. You can move the width of your stance. So if you're hitting a driver and you like to have a little wider stance, that's okay. And if you're hitting like a pitching wedge or a lob wedge and you want to have a narrower stance, that also works. But let's try to keep the ball in a constant position. That's the best way to get a consistent shot each and every time. We really like to have the ball about 3 inches inside our left heel. Or if you have a logo in your shirt, like you have the New York Country Club logo, right even with the logo. So if you go right off the logo, right straight down to the ground, or 3 inches inside that heel, that's where you should play the ball with each and every club. Distance away from the ball, we talked a little bit about that too. How do you get your distance away from the ball? If you lay the club down on the ground, with the ball being in the middle of the club, the top of the club should touch you about the middle of your thigh, about 3 inches above your knee. With any club that you're playing on the grass, that even goes for the fairway woods. If you're teeing the ball up and it's not on the ground anymore, it's going to be teed up, then you should let the top of the club touch your knee. So again, you put the club down behind the ball. When the club touches your knee, you're the right distance away from it. That's even if you're hitting an iron. If you're on a par 3 and you're hitting like a 6-iron off the par 3, and you got to tee it up off the ground, and you're not playing it directly on the ground, let the top of that club hit your knee. All right, put the ball in the middle of the club. And when you move the club down towards your leg, it should touch the top of your knee. When you're on the grass, whether it's a fairway wood, it should touch about the middle of your thigh. That'll give you an idea of a little bit how far away from the ball to stand. And if you're having trouble hitting the ball either thin, hitting the top of the ball, you're hitting it fat a little bit behind the ball, most of the time that's not really a swing issue, that's more of a ball position issue. You're probably either too close to it if you're hitting it fat, or you might be a little too far away if you're hitting it thin. So those are kind of important factors that you can check before you even hit the golf ball. Then we talked a little about the golf swing. We want to talk a little bit how to create arc in the golf swing as we take the club back. We want to bring the club back a certain way, and then we want to get a little bit of a wrist hinge. That way that'll get the club a little bit more arc as it goes back. Also, it keeps your hands a little bit farther away from your head, which will enable you to generate a little bit more speed on the way down. Also helps you with lag. By creating that L angle of that wrist cock, you're going to create lag on the way down. So as you're creating lag, you're kind of storing all that energy until it releases into the ball. And you're going to get more speed at the bottom of the ball than you will at the top. You're going to create a little bit more distance in your golf shot. Plus, you're going to have a little bit more cleaner of a shot. Talk a little bit about your hips, how to control how fast your hips move in relationship to the club head. You're trying to get both your hips and your club head to meet on time at the point of impact. Yes, your hips might be a little bit ahead of it, not much, but a little bit. And that club will kind of whip through at the end, and you'll be able to kind of get it close where you can catch it at the same time. If your hips get there really too fast and they end up open, club's not going to be able to get there square or straight to the ball. It's going to get there a little late. It's going to make your ball go to the right. And if you get that club there a little too early, it's going to come in kind of closed. It's going to get that ball going off to the left. So if you're getting a lot of dispersion in your golf shots, some go to the right, some go to the left. A lot of times it's the timing of your golf swing. You can really work on how fast your hips move in relationship to where the club comes in. These are just some things that we covered. Covered a little bit about chipping, you know, how to find a landing area, what clubs to use. I'm a big fan of using all the clubs when you chip. You know, a short chip shot, maybe you might want to use a more lofted club since you don't have a lot of green to work with. On a longer shot where the pin is farther on the green, you want the ball to run a little bit more, maybe use a little bit longer club, 7-iron or 5-iron, where you're going to land the ball on the green and let it release to the hole. What we want to do is we want to get the ball rolling quickly. So you want the ball to land on the green and release all the way out to the hole. You don't want to fly it. You have a pin on the way back of the green. I don't suggest flying it all the way up to the pin and getting it to stop. Let it land on the front of the green and let it release up to the back of the green. It's a lot easier shot, a lot less of a swing, and you know, a lot less damage can happen. You're not going to really scull it if you're taking a short swing. If you have to take that big looping swing, there's a good chance you can either scull it or hit it fat. We want to control the length of the swing so we get a better result. Talk a little about the setup of the golf clubs. You have about 14 clubs in your bag. You can set them up however you'd like to. It depends what your game is like. I mean, some people choose to put in an extra wedge. They like to have 4 wedges instead of 3. They'll have a pitching wedge and a sand wedge. Maybe they'll put a lob wedge and a gap wedge in your bag. If you have enough room, and that incorporates all those 14 clubs, then you can use 4 wedges if you have a little gap between your clubs. Now, a lot of times, sets will come with a pitching wedge and a sand wedge. There'll be 12 clubs in the bag, and you have 2 more clubs to work with. If you seem to have a big gap between your pitching wedge and your sand wedge, in other words, if you hit your pitching wedge, let's say 110, and you're only hitting your sand wedge 80 yards, that's probably a pretty big gap, that 30 yards. So you want to be able to find a club that will fill that gap. So they make what they call an A wedge, an attack wedge, or an approach wedge, or even a gap wedge. It's usually about a 52-degree wedge, and that fills the gap between your 56-degree sand wedge and your 46-degree pitching wedge. So if you have a big gap there, you can choke down on the pitching wedge if you like, or make kind of a half swing if you want, but some people would rather make that nice full swing. They're going to go out and get that club that's going to give them that ability to hit the ball, say 100 yards or 95 yards if they're only hitting it 80 with the sand wedge. Maybe they want to hit something about 90 or 95, put a 52-degree gap wedge in there. If you don't have those gaps and you want to use it on the longer end and you have a driver and a 3-wood, maybe you might want to put a couple hybrids in the bag. If you have a driver 3-wood or 5-wood, maybe you put a hybrid in the bag and take one of your longer irons out. Seems to be a little easier to hit the hybrid than it is with some of the longer irons. Has the same amount of loft as your long iron, but doesn't really have that flange where it's going to dig into the ground, so you're going to hit a lot of fat shots. Works much better out of the rough than some of the longer irons, so you get that hybrid, get the ball up in the air more, get it to stop on the green instead of having that long iron release through the green. So these are just some of the things that we talked about. Talk a little about the driver, how with the driver it's the longest club in the bag, so you should try to make the most amount of shoulder turn as you can. Again, flexibility is going to determine how much of a shoulder turn that you make. If you're not as flexible and you can't make as big of a shoulder turn, you're going to have to quiet your hips a little bit and really release your hands through the ball to get that club to catch up to the hips at impact. Because remember, it's the longest club in the bag, so it's going to take the longest time to get up from the top of your swing, no matter where it is, back down to the ball. And a lot of times people's body are moving as fast as if they're hitting a pitching wedge. A pitching wedge is only about 35.5 inches long. These drivers sometimes could be as long as 45 inches. So you're talking 10 inches longer. 10 inches longer is going to put you a little farther away from the ball. It's going to make the club take a little longer to get down to the ball and impact. So you better be conscious of where your body is, especially if you're someone that's slicing the ball to the right. If you're a right-handed player and your ball starts straight and the spin kicks it over to the right, you know that club face is coming in very open. You can control your speed of your hips, hit that club face to square a little bit more. Maybe use your wrists a little bit more, make a little bit more turn, or slow your hips down on the way down through the swing. And these are just some of the things we talked about. I'm probably not going to have a questionnaire today. We have a final setup for Thursday. I'm going to put a bunch of questions together for you guys to answer for Thursday. Just today's video, I just wanted to really thank you again, and just wanted to go over some of the things that we talked about. And I appreciate everybody sticking with me. I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. It's a form of teaching that I've never done before. Usually I would like to do one-on-one personal, but due with the coronavirus and college being closed, so we're doing the best that we can, trying to get you to understand golf and to kind of get the full aspect of the game of golf on videos, and that's really what we did. Anyway, thanks again. If you have any questions, I think everybody has my cell phone number. You're more than welcome to give me a call on my cell phone. Like I said, I am a golf professional, teaching professional in New York Country Club. It's right in New Hempstead. It's maybe 2.5 miles from the college. So when these restrictions lift and we're able to get outside, you guys want to call me up, come up for a lesson or something, I'd be more than happy to have you come up to the country club. I'll give you a personal one-on-one lesson. I won't charge you. It'll be just, remind me that you're an RCC student. I think I know most of you anyway. Just make an appointment, come on up. I'll give you a personal, we have the ability to get back outside. Thanks again. Remember, Thursday's going to be our last day, so make sure you guys check the Blackboard. We're going to have a questionnaire set up for Thursday. Anyway, thanks guys. I'll see you on Thursday.